Following on from the last video where we talked about the discovery phase, we're now going to move on to the second phase of the triple diamond, which is the definition. So the definition phase takes the vision that was created as the output of the discovery phase, which was focused on what the problem is we're going to solve and what the solution is that we want to develop, and is going to look at the how. So it's going to focus on how do we turn that vision into a reality. So what areas of technology, design, and user experience do we need to think about to be able to decide on the approach for delivering the project? We'll develop all of those to a point where we have a clear backlog that the product team will be able to pick up in the next phase. And that product backlog is the key deliverable that comes out of the definition phase. So we're looking to de-risk any unknowns, choose any technology providers that we need to be able to build the product, choose who we're going to use for payment integration, what CRM we're going to integrate, any of those API or areas where the technical complexity where there might be some challenges, we try and bottom those out as part of this definition phase. And our ideal state is to be starting the next phase with all of the big risks taken off the table and a clear roadmap of what the product team needs to work on to take us through to launch. So like the discovery phase, the definition phase has a set of activities we typically like to work through. And similar to that, we don't necessarily work through them all for every project, but we make the decision at the beginning of the project of which ones we think are going to add the most value. So those might include things like vendor selection process, technical architecture, mapping out more of the user journeys. Most digital products will have an element of content. So content modeling is one of the key activities here. So understanding the structure of that content, how much of it there is, and how much control the team running the product needs to have over it. And that will help us into the next phase, which is usually vendor selection. So vendor selection is where we look at various different parts of the product that we can buy rather than build. And content management, authentication, payment processing, those are the kind of obvious ones that we'll always look at first. Every part of the product, we take the view of, is it unique enough that we should build it, or is there a provider out there where we can just pay a monthly fee and have that feature? It massively changes the approach to the product and the cost to the product. If you can get 50% of your features by combining existing products, it's a lot cheaper way and quicker way to get to market than to build it all bespoke. So there are also a number of design activities that we'll carry out in this phase. So following on from any early prototyping and design concepts done in discovery, we'll look to do wireframing, potentially enhanced prototype with more of the core features in it, and start thinking about a design system for the product. So what elements are going to need to be designed and built out as a component system to allow the product team to put together the UI. Three key parts of the final stage of the definition phase are the product backlog, so a list of tickets, even if it's just at a high level, of every feature that needs to be in that product. A roadmap, so what's going to be in that initial release versus what's going to be done further down the line in future releases. And then a delivery plan. How many sprints is it going to take us to get to that MVP? And what are the focuses of each of those sprints going to be in the lead up to launch? And that takes us to the end of the definition phase. At this point, we know how we're going to build the product, we know when we're going to do it, and the order in which we're going to do it. And that sets up the product team to be able to start on day one, working through functional requirements and delivering product features. So often we'll have the same team that completed the discovery phase looking at the definition phase, but if we need any specialist expertise around the how, maybe certain technical challenges that might need a specific piece of expertise, then we'll bring those additional people into the team. But broadly speaking, it's the same team that have built up all the understanding and worked with the client team up to this point that help us work through that plan and they'll work alongside our delivery leads and production scheduling to make sure the resources and expertise that they need to be able to deliver the project plan are available and in place for that to happen. So unlike the discovery phase, which is really collaborative, the definition phase, whilst having some collaboration between team members, is more going away and coming up with a plan and researching approaches and then coming back together as a team at the end and sharing the recommendations that the team have brought together. So similar to how we run it in Discovery, the meetings in Definition tends to be a kick-off session with everyone involved, and that's where we'll go through the activity list, work out what activities we're going to do, what R&D we're going to do, and the prioritization and order in which we're going to do them. And then there's equally a big meeting at the end to kind of review all of that together. So we'll come together as a combined team and work through all of the outputs, the recommendations, the approaches, and as a team decide exactly how we're going to piece together the how of how we're going to build the product. And there'll always be some questions or trade-offs that maybe we're looking at as part of that decision. So whether it's choosing the right vendor or a different approach to delivering a feature, we'll have those discussions, and at the end of that, hopefully we've got the key decisions we need to be able to output that final product backlog. And normally all of those decisions that we're making in that session as well have a cost implication. So it's not just what gives us the best feature, it's more of like a cost benefit analysis of going, we could go this route, it will cost slightly less, it might deliver, it might be like the 80-20 of like, gives us most of what we want, a fraction of the cost, or there's an option over here which does everything but is significantly more expensive. So going through all of those kind of cost benefit decisions as a team, we can land on what we think is the right place to put the most budget versus where it makes sense to be more cost effective because it's maybe a less critical part of the requirements, and actually something that's functional rather than perfect is a good compromise to make. So the ultimate goal is to give that product team everything they need to be able to like run the project on rails in terms of like all of the difficult questions sorted, as much of the systems and platforms in place that they need to integrate with already sorted out, a clear backlog. And we know things will change in a project, but for us, having as much clarity as possible just means we're only dealing with the change instead of having to deal with the change and everything that we need to be getting sorted in that phase. So yeah, we want to have as smooth road as possible for the product team to be able to get started, because ultimately you're bringing a bigger team, more resource together, and you want to make sure that team's working as efficiently as possible. So normally time spent here pays off with a more efficient product team running afterwards. So that's a description of what we do in the definition phase. The next video, we're going to look at the production phase, which is the third and final phase of our framework. Like and subscribe.